Do you ever wonder about the quiet ones among us? The ones who move through life with a stillness that can be mistaken for complacency, a silence that's often misread as a lack of aspiration? We live in a world that often celebrates the loudest voices, the most extravagant gestures, the most visible displays of ambition. But what about the true power that resides in the unseen, the quiet diligence, the unwavering commitment that builds not with a roar, but with a persistent, gentle hum? What if the very person you've overlooked, underestimated, or even dismissed holds the keys to a kingdom you never knew existed, a kingdom built on their own terms, fueled by a dream too vast for small minds to comprehend? This is the story of Jasmine Ortega, a woman who understood the profound strength of quiet purpose. At 29, Jasmine carried the quiet grace of someone who had learned life's lessons not from textbooks, but from the raw, unfiltered experiences of living. Her journey began far from the polished offices of Cologne, in a modest home where dreams were often whispered, rarely shouted. She had once been an au pair, caring for children who had more than she ever could have imagined, but from whom she learned invaluable lessons about responsibility, patience, and the intricate dance of family dynamics. That experience, seemingly a detour from a conventional path, had in fact been a masterclass in observation, in understanding unspoken needs, in building trust brick by painstaking brick. When she transitioned into real estate, it wasn't a sudden leap but a natural evolution, an application of the same diligent care to properties and people. She approached her work with an earnestness that often felt out of place in the cutthroat world of commissions and closings. Her clients often noted her meticulous attention to detail, her unwavering integrity, her ability to see the potential in a neglected property, or the hidden worries behind a seller's confident smile. She worked not for the grandstanding, but for the quiet satisfaction of a job well done, for the deep-seated pride that came from helping someone find their home. Her office was modest, her attire understated, her demeanor calm, almost serene. She didn't seek the spotlight, nor did she crave the loud accolades that others chased so fiercely. Her ambition was a deep, quiet current, running beneath the surface, unseen by those who only skimmed the top. She spent her evenings poring over market data, her weekends walking through neighborhoods, observing, listening, absorbing. She understood that true value wasn't just in the bricks and mortar, but in the stories held within those walls, in the futures that would unfold there. Her hands, though often calloused from moving boxes or clearing out properties for viewings, were also the hands that meticulously filled out complex contracts, that carefully typed out detailed analyses, that patiently held a trembling hand during a difficult negotiation. She was an architect of quiet successes, a weaver of unseen opportunities, perpetually underestimated, yet perpetually, undeniably, growing. The weight of her grandfather's passing hung heavy in the air, a different kind of burden than the grief of loss itself. It was the weight of an unexpected pronouncement, a public dismissal that cut deeper than any harsh words spoken in anger. The family gathering for the reading of the will was a subdued affair, held in the very house that was the subject of their contention, a house that had stood for generations as a quiet sentinel of their lineage, now transformed into a stage for the unveiling of its future. Her cousins, Thomas and Clara, sat with an air of expectant entitlement, their expressions a thinly veiled blend of sympathy and anticipation. Thomas, with his booming laugh and penchant for exaggerated tales of his successful ventures, and Clara, whose every outfit seemed to scream for attention, were the epitome of what her grandfather had seemingly admired: outward flash, visible ambition, a relentless pursuit of the next big thing. Jasmine sat quietly in the corner, her presence almost an afterthought, a shadow against the sunlit window. She had loved her grandfather deeply, remembering his softer side, the quiet moments they had shared, the stories he had told her as a child. She had always believed he understood her, that he saw past the surface. So, when the lawyer's voice filled the room, steady and formal, reciting the clauses of the will, a chill crept into the warmth of the spring afternoon. The house, the very heart of their family history, was bequeathed not to Jasmine, the quiet caregiver, the diligent worker, but equally to Thomas and Clara. The lawyer then read the accompanying letter, a personal note from her grandfather intended to clarify his intentions, a message that was meant to be a legacy of wisdom, but instead became a crushing blow. His words echoed in the silence, each syllable a hammer blow against Jasmine's heart. My beloved grandchildren, Thomas and Clara, you possess the vision, the drive, the hunger to dream big, to seize opportunities and expand our family's legacy in the world. This house, a testament to what we have built, is yours to manage, to grow, to turn into something even greater. As for Jasmine, the pause was imperceptible to anyone but her. While her heart is good, she has never truly shown the ambition, the grand vision needed for such an inheritance. She does not dream big enough. The words hung in the air, thick with unspoken judgment, laced with a paternalistic dismissal that stripped her of her quiet dignity. Jasmine felt a tremor go through her, a tremor so subtle it went unnoticed by her cousins, who exchanged triumphant, almost smug, glances. Her jaw tightened imperceptibly. Her hands, resting in her lap, clenched into small, tight fists. She said nothing, not a word of protest, not a whisper of disagreement. Her silence was not an admission of guilt or agreement with his assessment, but a profound internal realization. It was the moment she understood that some dreams were simply too vast, too personal, too deeply rooted to be understood by those who measured success only in volume and visibility. Her ambition, her vision, was not less simply because it was quieter, more carefully cultivated. In that moment, the sting of her grandfather's words became the unexpected catalyst, transforming from a wound into a forge. It wasn't anger that filled her, but a cold, clear determination. She would not just dream big, she would build bigger, not for outward show, but for an inner truth, a testament to worth unseen. She knew what she was capable of, and the world, and her family, would eventually see it too. Her departure from the house that day was as quiet as her arrival, leaving the cousins to their triumphant whispers, oblivious to the storm of silent resolve brewing within her. The cousins, Thomas and Clara, wasted no time in unveiling their self-proclaimed vision for the inherited house, a vision that, to Jasmine, seemed entirely devoid of any genuine love or understanding of its true spirit. Their discussions, loud and boisterous, filled the family WhatsApp group with a flurry of messages, emojis, and unsolicited advice from their various social circles. It's a gold mine, Clara, Thomas had declared in one of their first phone calls, his voice practically vibrating with avarice. We'll turn it around, flip it, make a killing. Clara, ever the pragmatist with an eye for immediate gratification, chimed in. No, Thomas, not flip it. Sell it, quickly. It's old, it needs work. Too much hassle. Let's cash out and invest in something modern, something that actually reflects our ambition. Their conversations revolved solely around market value, potential profits, and the quickest exit strategy. They never once spoke of the house's history, the memories etched into its walls, the generations who had laughed and cried within its embrace. To them, it was merely an asset, a commodity, a stagnant pond that needed draining for the gold nuggets at the bottom. They called a renowned, high-end real estate agency, one known for quick, high-volume sales, completely bypassing Jasmine, despite her profession. They saw her as simply family, not as a professional, certainly not as someone with legitimate expertise. Her offers of help, subtle suggestions about local market nuances or potential emotional buyers who would value the house's character, were met with patronizing smiles or dismissive waves of the hand. Oh, Jasmine, Clara had said, a saccharine tone in her voice. That's sweet of you, but we've got this handled. We need someone aggressive, someone with connections, someone who truly understands big deals. Not just little apartments, Thomas added, with a condescending chuckle. Yeah, sis, stick to your cozy rentals. We're talking big league here. Their casual disregard stung, but it also reinforced Jasmine's understanding of their superficiality. They were so blinded by their own self-importance and the allure of immediate wealth that they couldn't see past the surface. The house itself, once a vibrant hub, now seemed to mirror their neglect. Dust motes danced in the unused sunlight, the garden was overgrown, and a faint mustiness clung to the air, whispering of stories left untold, of love now unappreciated. It was a beautiful, solid house, built with care and designed for a lifetime of comfort, but it required an eye that saw beyond superficial imperfections, a heart that recognized its inherent worth. The cousins, however, saw only the chipped paint, the outdated kitchen, the garden that required too much effort. They hurried through showings, impatient with prospective buyers who dared to ask detailed questions about the property's history or structural integrity. They were dismissive of offers that didn't meet their inflated expectations, convinced that a mythical, cash buyer would swoop in and hand them exactly what they wanted, no questions asked. Their entitlement was a thick fog, obscuring their judgment, making them deaf to the quiet wisdom that Jasmine offered, and blind to the profound irony that was slowly, patiently, unfolding right beneath their very noses. They continued to scheme and dream of lavish expenditures, completely unaware that the truest dream for that house was being carefully, meticulously, woven by the very person they had so carelessly discarded from their vision of big. Jasmine's work was her sanctuary, her quiet rebellion against a world that often failed to see true value. While her cousins were chasing headlines and flashy deals, Jasmine was building her empire brick by painstaking brick, client by deeply satisfied client. Her approach to real estate was utterly unique, a stark contrast to the aggressive, commission-driven tactics of many in her field. She didn't just sell properties, she cultivated relationships. When a client came to her, whether they were a first-time buyer overwhelmed by the market or a seasoned investor looking for an overlooked gem, Jasmine treated them with an unwavering focus, as if their needs were the only ones that mattered in the world. She would spend hours, sometimes days, researching neighborhoods, analyzing market trends, and delving into the history of properties. She saw the story behind every listing, the potential beyond the immediate aesthetics. Where others saw just a house, she saw a home waiting to be filled with laughter, a foundation for new beginnings, an investment in a future. She often took on listings that other agents deemed problematic, or too much work properties with complicated histories, or those requiring sensitive handling due to personal circumstances. She found immense satisfaction in transforming these challenges into triumphs, in bringing resolution to what others considered intractable. One particular instance stood out: an elderly couple, heartbroken at having to sell their beloved, albeit neglected, family home due to health issues. Other agents had dismissed the property as a teardown, too expensive to renovate. Jasmine, however, saw the potential. She spent weeks researching local preservation grants, connecting with builders who specialized in historic renovations, and marketing the property not just as a house, but as a piece of the neighborhood's living history. She worked tirelessly, empathetically guiding the couple through every step, ensuring their emotional comfort was prioritized above all else. The sale, when it finally closed, was not just a transaction. It was a testament to her unique blend of business acumen and profound human decency. The house sold for a remarkable price to a family who truly cherished its heritage, and the elderly couple was able to move into assisted living with peace of mind. Her reputation grew organically, not through expensive advertising campaigns, but through whispered recommendations, through the genuine gratitude of her clients. They spoke of her integrity, her quiet persistence, her uncanny ability to find exactly what they needed, often before they even knew it themselves. She was known for her Jasmine touch, a subtle but powerful alchemy that turned stressful situations into seamless transitions and daunting challenges into rewarding outcomes. Her success was not measured in the size of her office or the flash of her car, but in the steady stream of repeat clients, the heartfelt testimonials. and the quiet satisfaction of knowing she had made a tangible difference in people's lives. She worked late into the nights, the glow of her laptop screen, often the only light in her small apartment, poring over blueprints, crafting meticulous proposals, and refining her understanding of the complex legalities of her profession. She invested in courses, attended seminars, constantly honing her skills, pushing herself beyond what was expected. Every successful closing, every fulfilled client, was not just a commission earned, it was a quiet vindication, a reaffirmation of her path. It built her confidence, brick by brick, just as she helped others build their futures. She was building her own future, unseen, unheralded, yet undeniably, powerfully, real. Her quiet dedication was steadily amassing not just capital, but an invaluable reservoir of experience and an ironclad reputation, resources that her cousins, for all their bluster and superficiality, could never hope to possess. Her silent ascent was a masterclass in true ambition, a demonstration that dreaming big didn't require fanfare, only unwavering commitment and an unshakable belief in one's own quiet power. Jasmine's journey was built on a foundation of resilience, honed by experiences that had taught her the profound value of quiet strength and self-reliance. Her path from au pair to real estate agent wasn't a casual transition. It was a deliberate, meticulously planned ascent, fueled by an ambition that ran far deeper than superficial recognition. Her time as an au pair in Cologne had been more than just a job. It was an education in the nuances of independence. Living in a foreign country, far from the familiar comforts of home, forced her to rely solely on her own wits, her own resources. She learned to navigate cultural differences, manage complex schedules, and handle unexpected challenges with calm composure. She saw firsthand the fragility of wealth without purpose, the hollowness of material possessions devoid of deeper meaning. The experience taught her invaluable lessons about frugality, about making every penny count, about the power of diligent saving. She observed the intricate financial landscapes of the families she worked for, noting their investments, their approaches to property, and the subtle ways wealth was either squandered or strategically grown. It sparked an intellectual curiosity within her, an urge to understand the mechanics of financial stability, to build a life of genuine security for herself, not for show, but for peace of mind. When she returned home, armed with a newfound clarity and a small but carefully hoarded sum of savings, she knew exactly what she wanted to do. Real estate, with its tangible assets and long-term potential, resonated deeply with her. She understood that property was not just about buying and selling, it was about building legacies, about creating stability, about the fundamental human need for a place to call one's own. She enrolled in night courses, devoured textbooks on property law and market analysis, and spent every spare moment shadowing experienced agents, absorbing their knowledge like a sponge. She was not content with merely passing exams, she wanted to master the craft. Her method of saving and investing was born of necessity, but honed into a strategic art form. She lived modestly, far below her means, channeling every spare cent into smart, diversified investments. She avoided the flashy expenses that many of her peers indulged in, understanding that true wealth was built on discipline and foresight, not on instant gratification. Her financial discipline was legendary among her close circle of friends, though few understood the depth of the motivation behind it. She tracked her progress meticulously, her financial spreadsheets a testament to her unwavering focus. She researched distressed properties, understood the intricacies of renovation costs versus potential resale values, and quietly began building a modest portfolio of her own, a tangible demonstration of her principles. Each small success was a quiet victory, a confirmation that her vision, though unseen by others, was steadily, surely, coming to fruition. Her ultimate goal wasn't just financial independence, it was about reclaiming autonomy, about proving to herself, and eventually to others, that dreaming big wasn't about public declarations or ostentatious displays. It was about defining one's own path, pursuing it with unyielding dedication, and building a foundation so solid that no external judgment could ever shake it. The house, her grandfather's house, represented more than just property. It was a symbol of legacy, of belonging, of the family narrative. And in her quiet, deliberate way, Jasmine was preparing to rewrite a crucial chapter of that narrative, not with anger, but with an unparalleled, quiet strength, proving that the most profound ambitions often operate far beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect moment to emerge. The cousins had listed the house with the speed and enthusiasm of children unwrapping presents on Christmas morning, convinced that their windfall was just around the corner. They bypassed Jasmine completely, opting instead for a splashy, well-known agency with a reputation for high-volume sales, believing that sheer market presence would guarantee a quick, lucrative deal. Their preparation of the house was superficial at best. They hired a cheap cleaning crew for a perfunctory sweep, dusted off some of the more obvious cobwebs, and bought a few generic air fresheners to mask the lingering scent of age. They refused to invest in any significant repairs or renovations, convinced that the right buyer would see past the peeling wallpaper and the outdated kitchen. "It's got good bones," Thomas declared to Clara, echoing a phrase he'd overheard from a house flipping show, entirely missing the irony. Someone will want to put their own stamp on it. Initial interest was indeed high. The prestigious agency managed to generate a flurry of viewings in the first week, attracting a procession of curious lookers and tentative offers. The cousins preened, convinced their strategy was paying off. They began to mentally spend their impending fortune, discussing luxury vacations, new cars, and investments in speculative ventures. Thomas even started researching yacht rentals, while Clara designed a new wardrobe in her head. But then, as quickly as it had surged, the interest waned. The initial flurry subsided into a quiet lull. The flaws of the house, unaddressed, became more apparent to serious buyers. The offers that trickled in were lower than their inflated expectations, often accompanied by extensive lists of requested repairs or contingencies. The cousins grew impatient, their initial enthusiasm curdling into frustration. "This is ridiculous." Clara fumed during one of their increasingly tense phone calls. "It's a prime location. Why isn't anyone biting?" Thomas, ever the self-proclaimed expert, blamed the market, the agent, even the picky buyers, never once considering their own short-sightedness. It was during this period of mounting impatience that the enigmatic cash buyer first appeared, a seemingly miraculous answer to their growing anxieties. The offer came not through a direct interaction, but impersonally, efficiently, via a highly reputable law firm known for handling complex, high-value transactions. The offer was firm, no contingencies, no prolonged negotiations, and, most importantly, for the exact amount the cousins had initially, somewhat optimistically, listed the house for. A price that had seemed increasingly unattainable. "It's perfect," Thomas exclaimed, his voice practically trembling with relief. "No fuss, no haggling. This is what I was talking about, Clara. Someone who understands value." Clara, equally ecstatic, imagined her new designer handbag already swinging from her arm. They celebrated prematurely, convinced that their big dreams were finally manifesting. They boasted to friends and family about their shrewd decision to sell, their cleverness in attracting such a desirable buyer. They even made a point of subtly mentioning it to Jasmine during a casual family gathering, a thinly veiled triumph in their voices. "You know, Jasmine," Thomas had said, leaning back in his chair, a smug smile playing on his lips. "We knew this house needed someone with vision. And lo and behold, a cash buyer, just like that. Some people just know how to make things happen, wouldn't you say?" Jasmine, as always, simply nodded, a faint, almost imperceptible curve on her lips. She offered a quiet, "That's wonderful news," her eyes holding a depth of knowledge that her cousins, lost in their own self-congratulation, completely missed. They were oblivious, caught in the intoxicating haze of their perceived victory, completely unaware that the cash buyer was not a mysterious external force, but the quiet, unassuming figure who sat across the table from them, observing their every move, silently preparing for the most significant transaction of her life. The stage was set, the dramatic irony thickening with every passing moment, leading them inexorably towards a revelation that would shatter their comfortable illusions of superiority and expose the true meaning of ambition. Jasmine's strategy was a masterclass in quiet leverage and calculated positioning, an intricate dance of professional detachment and deeply personal investment. While her cousins were wrapped up in their hubris, believing they had orchestrated a brilliant sale, Jasmine was meticulously pulling the strings from behind the curtain, ensuring every detail aligned with her ultimate purpose. She had initially considered acting as the agent for the buyer, but quickly dismissed it. Her family, blinded by their preconceived notions of her lack of ambition, would never have accepted her in such a role, or would have viewed it with suspicion. Instead, she chose a more discreet, more powerful approach. She acted as the buyer herself, but through a trusted, highly reputable law firm that specialized in anonymous property acquisitions. This layered approach not only maintained her anonymity until the precise moment of revelation, but also lent an air of undeniable legitimacy and formidable power to the offer. The law firm, known for its discretion and efficiency, handled all communications with the cousin's agent, presenting the offer with a polished professionalism that brooked no argument. They made it clear that the buyer was serious, well-funded, and preferred a swift, no-fuss transaction. This aligned perfectly with the cousins' desire for a quick sale, feeding their impatience and making them overlook any potential curiosities about the buyer's identity. Jasmine, meanwhile, maintained her usual quiet demeanor within the family. She would occasionally inquire about the house, her questions framed as casual concern, but in reality, subtly gauging her cousin's satisfaction and confidence. When they boasted about the cash buyer and the incredible offer, she offered sincere congratulations, her tone devoid of any hint of sarcasm or hidden agenda. This further lulled them into a false sense of security, deepening the dramatic irony. She meticulously reviewed every document, every clause, every legal detail of the transaction, not just as a buyer, but with the trained eye of a seasoned real estate professional. She ensured that the terms were not merely favorable to the buyer, but absolutely airtight, leaving no room for future disputes or misunderstandings. She understood the psychology of the negotiation, anticipating her cousin's eagerness and capitalizing on their desire for a swift, effortless closing. While they were busy calculating their future profits, Jasmine was calculating every contingency, every potential pitfall, ensuring her investment was sound, not just financially, but emotionally. She subtly orchestrated the timeline, pushing for a quick closing date, a detail that appealed to the cousins' impatience and reinforced their belief in the buyer's seriousness. Every step of the process, from the initial offer to the final pre-closing checks, was a quiet testament to her planning, her foresight, her relentless dedication. She was the unseen hand guiding the narrative, allowing her family to believe they were the architects of their own success, while she quietly built the bridge to her own carefully constructed victory. Her presence at the eventual signing, therefore, wouldn't be as an agent or a negotiator, but as a family member invited to witness what the cousins believed was their crowning achievement. This would make the eventual revelation not just a surprise, but a profound, almost seismic shock, demonstrating that true power often operates in the most unexpected and underestimated forms. The stage was being set for a confrontation of values, a reckoning that would redefine what dreaming big truly meant. The day of the contract signing dawned bright and crisp, a deceptive calm before the emotional storm that was about to break. For Thomas and Clara, it was a day of triumphant culmination, the eagerly anticipated grand finale of their family inheritance saga. They arrived at the lawyer's imposing office building, a sleek edifice of glass and steel in the heart of the city, radiating an almost palpable smugness. Thomas, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, carried a briefcase he rarely used, an unnecessary prop for the gravitas he wished to convey. Clara, resplendent in a designer dress and statement jewelry, clutched a designer handbag, already imagining its replacement with the proceeds of the sale. They walked with an air of self-satisfied confidence, their footsteps echoing slightly on the polished marble floor of the lobby. They greeted the reception staff with an overly familiar air, as if their impending transaction elevated them to a special status. Their faces were flushed with excitement, their eyes gleaming with the anticipation of the substantial sum about to be deposited into their accounts. They exchanged whispered jokes about their cleverness, their business acumen, completely oblivious to the quiet, dignified figure who arrived moments later, blending seamlessly into the background. Jasmine, too, was present, not as an invited participant in their victory lap, but as an observer, a quiet family member asked to bear witness, perhaps as a courtesy, or simply because it was assumed she had nothing better to do. She wore a simple, elegant, dark dress, her hair pulled back neatly, her expression calm and unreadable. Her eyes, however, missed nothing. She observed her cousin's puffed-up pride, the way they held themselves, the barely suppressed glee that radiated from them. She saw the glint of avarice in their eyes, the superficiality of their joy. She noted the lawyer's polite but reserved demeanor, a subtle contrast to the cousin's boisterousness. The meeting room itself was stark yet luxurious. A long, polished mahogany table dominated the space, surrounded by plush leather chairs. Stacks of neatly bound legal documents lay at each place setting, a formidable testament to the impending transaction. The air was thick with unspoken tension, a mix of anticipation from the cousins and an almost preternatural stillness from Jasmine. The lawyer, a distinguished woman with sharp, intelligent eyes and a calm, authoritative voice, began the proceedings. She explained the final details, confirming the terms of the agreement, her words precise and measured. Thomas and Clara nodded vigorously, occasionally interjecting with impatient questions about the exact timing of the funds transfer. They were eager to sign, to get this done, to move on to their next grand venture. Jasmine watched them, a profound sense of dramatic irony settling over her. They believed they were in control, that they were orchestrating a masterpiece of a deal, completely unaware that they were merely pawns in a much larger, more significant game. One initiated and meticulously planned by the very person they had so carelessly dismissed. The lawyer's gaze occasionally flickered to Jasmine, a hint of something unreadable in her eyes, a shared secret perhaps, a silent acknowledgement of the impending revelation. The pen was poised, the documents lay open, and the cousins leaned forward, ready to ink their names onto the pages that would confirm their financial triumph. The tension in the room was almost unbearable for Jasmine, a taut string stretched to its breaking point, ready to snap with the lightest touch. The moment was ripe, saturated with the weight of past slights and future possibilities, poised on the very threshold of truth. The truth, when it came, would not just be a name, it would be an earthquake of recognition, shaking the foundations of their preconceived notions and redefining everything they thought they knew about ambition, success, and the quiet power of the unseen. The lawyer, a woman named Miss Richter, known for her measured tones and impeccable professionalism, cleared her throat softly, a tiny sound that nonetheless seemed to cut through the cousins' triumphant whispers. Thomas and Clara, their pens hovering above the signature lines, looked up, their faces alight with eager anticipation. They were ready. This was it. The moment they had been waiting for, the validation of their dream big philosophy. Miss Richter's gaze, calm and steady, swept across them, then settled briefly on Jasmine, an almost imperceptible nod passing between them. A silent signal. "Excellent, Miss." Richter began, her voice clear and resonant in the hushed room. "Now, as we finalize this purchase, I believe it's time for the buyer to formally introduce herself, to sign the documents in person, and to acknowledge the transfer of ownership." Thomas and Clara exchanged puzzled glances. But we thought. Thomas started. The buyer was represented by the firm. We understood it was a private acquisition. Miss Richter offered a faint, polite smile. Indeed, they have been. But for the formal signing, the principal is here. Her eyes, filled with a quiet, knowing glint, turned fully towards Jasmine. Jasmine, who had been sitting quietly, almost a part of the elegant furniture, slowly, deliberately, pushed back her chair. The slight scrape of the chair legs against the polished floor seemed to reverberate like thunder in the stunned silence that instantly fell upon the room. Her cousin's eyes, initially dismissive, then mildly curious, widened in dawning incomprehension as Jasmine rose to her feet, with a quiet, unhurried grace. She walked slowly, purposefully, around the long mahogany table, her eyes never leaving her cousins' faces. As she reached the head of the table, directly opposite them, Miss Richter extended a hand, gesturing towards the empty seat meant for the buyer. "Cousins," Jasmine said, her voice soft but clear, cutting through the thick, incredulous silence that had fallen. "It seems we've had a small misunderstanding." Thomas's jaw dropped, a comical expression of utter disbelief contorting his face. Clara gasped, a small, choked sound that escaped her lips as her eyes darted from Jasmine to Miss Richter, then back to the purchase agreement, as if seeking an explanation from the sterile legal text. Miss Richter, maintaining her professional composure, smoothly offered, "Indeed. May I formally introduce the buyer, the new owner of this property, Miss Jasmine Ortega." The words hung in the air, echoing the grandfather's dismissal just weeks prior, now imbued with a profound, almost shattering, irony. Thomas stammered, his booming voice reduced to a mere whisper. "Jasmine? You? But how? Why?" Clara, recovering slightly, her face flushing crimson, managed to sputter. "You said you didn't dream big. You said nothing." Jasmine met their stunned gazes, her expression serene, devoid of malice or triumph. "Perhaps our definitions of dreaming big were always different," she replied, her voice steady and calm, radiating an undeniable power. "For some, dreaming big is about grand declarations and visible wealth. For others, it's about quiet diligence, persistent effort, and building a foundation so strong that it can quietly acquire what others only chase." She paused, letting her words sink in, allowing the full weight of the revelation to settle upon them. "You sought a quick sale, a fast profit. I sought to preserve a legacy, to honor a history, to claim what I believe. In my own quiet way, I had earned the right to steward." She picked up the pen that lay next to the contract, her hands steady, her movements precise. "My grandfather believed I didn't dream big enough for this house, but perhaps I dreamed differently." With a fluid, confident motion, Jasmine Ortega signed her name to the contract. Her signature bold and clear, a definitive declaration of ownership, a silent testament to the extraordinary power of the underestimated, and the quiet triumph of a dream meticulously built. Brick by painstaking brick, her cousins could only stare, their faces a mixture of shock, humiliation, and a dawning, grudging respect for the woman they had so carelessly overlooked. The house was hers, and with it, a profound, undeniable vindication. The silence that followed Jasmine's signature was profound, a vacuum filled with the echoes of her quiet declaration. Thomas and Clara sat frozen, their faces a canvas of warring emotions, disbelief, a flicker of humiliation, and slowly, a dawning, uncomfortable realization of their own short-sightedness. Their previous smugness had evaporated, replaced by a hollow emptiness. Jasmine, however, remained calm, her presence radiating a serene, unshakable confidence. She didn't gloat, didn't revel in their discomfort. Her victory was internal, a quiet triumph of principle over prejudice, of persistent effort over superficiality. Miss Richter, ever the professional, smoothly interjected, breaking the spell. "Well, that concludes the signing. Congratulations, Miss Ortega, on your acquisition. And to you both, she added, turning to Thomas and Clara, her tone neutral. The funds will be transferred to your accounts within the agreed upon time frame. Thomas finally found his voice, a strangled whisper. What? What will you do with it, Jasmine? His question was laced with a desperate need for understanding, a frantic search for logic in a situation that defied their previous assumptions. Jasmine turned to them, her gaze gentle but firm. I will restore it, she stated simply, her eyes reflecting a deep well of affection for the old house. Not to flip it, not for quick profit, but to honor its history, to bring it back to its original beauty, perhaps even beyond. She paused, her voice gaining a quiet resonance. My grandfather saw only one kind of ambition, one kind of success. He believed dreaming big meant grand ventures, visible acquisitions, the kind of pursuit that often leaves a trail of overlooked details and forgotten values. But true ambition, the kind that truly builds, is often quiet. It's in the meticulous planning, the consistent effort, the patient accumulation of knowledge and resources. She looked directly at Clara, then at Thomas. This house is not just a property, it's a symbol that true value isn't always loud or obvious. It's often found in the overlooked, in the underestimated, in the quiet dedication that shapes dreams into tangible realities. I will make this house a place of warmth, a testament to what quiet strength can achieve. Perhaps it will serve as a reminder that the biggest dreams are often cultivated in silence, away from the noise and judgment of those who don't understand their true depth. Thomas and Clara had no response. Their initial shock had given way to a stunned silence, a grudging acknowledgement of a truth they had never considered. They gathered their belongings, their previous bravado utterly deflated, and quietly, almost meekly, left the office. They were not angry, not truly. They were simply, small, humbled by the immense, quiet power of the woman they had so carelessly dismissed. Jasmine watched them go, a faint, almost wistful smile on her lips. She understood that some lessons were learned only through experience, through the shattering of long-held assumptions. She knew her relationship with her cousins would likely never be the same, but that was a small price to pay for the profound sense of self-ownership she now possessed. The house, her house, was more than just real estate. It was the physical manifestation of her quiet resilience, her unwavering spirit, her refusal to be defined by anyone else's narrow vision. She sat for a few more moments, alone in the elegant office, the signed contract before her, a tangible representation of her triumph. She touched the paper, a wave of profound satisfaction washing over her. It was not just about owning a house, it was about owning her narrative, about proving that true ambition wasn't about the volume of your voice, but the depth of your conviction. And so, we are left to ponder, how many quiet Jasmines walk among us every single day? How many individuals, meticulously building, quietly striving, are dismissed and underestimated simply because their dreams don't conform to the loud, flashy ideals often celebrated by society? This story of Jasmine Ortega is a powerful reminder that true strength often lies not in the roar of a lion, but in the unwavering determination of a river carving its own path, steadily, surely, over the hardest stone. It tells us that integrity, patience, and unwavering belief in one's own potential are far more valuable than fleeting applause or superficial accolades. It asks us to look deeper, beyond the surface, beyond the noise, to truly see the quiet power that can transform not just individual lives, but the very fabric of our communities. Jasmine's journey teaches us that dreaming big is not about outward show, it's about the internal fortitude to pursue your vision, regardless of how others perceive it. It's about finding your worth not in the opinions of others, but in the quiet satisfaction of your own relentless effort. So, the next time you encounter someone quiet, someone seemingly unassuming, resist the urge to draw conclusions based on their outward demeanor. Remember Jasmine Ortega. Remember that the greatest ambitions often operate in silence, waiting for the perfect moment to emerge, to transform, and to inspire. Share this story with someone who needs to be reminded of the immense power that lies within their own quiet ambition. Comment below and tell us about a time you saw an underestimated person rise, or how you cultivated your own quiet dreams. Let's champion the unseen, the unheard, and the undeniably powerful forces that shape our world, one quiet triumph at a time. Let us all learn to recognize the extraordinary in the seemingly ordinary, and to truly understand what it means to dream big, not just for the world to see, but for the soul to fulfill.